Part 57. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 561. Chapter 561. It always comes bit by bit. The princess of Heshuo County originally wanted to stay with Fan Kinjao for dinner, so she finally came here. Although it was for business, the business had already been done, so she couldn't delay her meal. Fan Kinjao declined because he still had unfinished business at home. Seeing this, the princess of Heshuo County did not force her to stay. When Fan Kinjao left, she ordered people to stuff large and small packages of supplements into the carriage. In the end, she saw that Fan Kinjao had no place to sit. Give up. Fan Kinjao actually does not lack these things, King Nanzai has everything. But thinking that it was her adoptive mother's wish, she did not refuse. The smile on Fan Kinjao's face gradually disappeared after the carriage left the Heshuo County prince's mansion. She has no blood relationship with her adoptive mother, but both her adoptive mother and her adoptive father love her very much. But when I look at my eldest sister-in-law, who is obviously related by blood, she is obsessed with sucking the blood of the Hua family. So when a person is selfish to the extreme, things like blood ties are no longer worth mentioning. Back at the house, Fan Kinjao ordered people to move the things sent by his adoptive mother to the main courtyard. He shunned the people around him and went to the courtyard where his brother lived alone. The yard is not big, but it is very neat. The eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei did not know what she was saying to Xinying, and the laughter of the mother and daughter could be heard intermittently along the window. The maid in the yard saw Miss Wei coming and rushed over to greet her. "Miss Wei." Fan Kinjao looked at the source of the laughter. "Is my brother here?" The maid nodded and led Fan Kinjao towards the study room nearby. Fan Kinjao was puzzled. "It's already this hour, why is my brother still reading in the study?" The maid said softly, "As for the young lady, since the eldest aunt came back with the young lady, the young master has moved to the study. Seeing that the weather is getting colder day by day, the study is still cold and cold even if the charcoal basin is lit. Yes, it's really hard for the young master. Does the eldest sister-in-law know about this? It's not like I haven't lived here before, so how could my eldest aunt not know about it? It's just that the eldest young master didn't say anything, and my aunt didn't say anything either, so she just let the eldest young master live like this." Hearing these words, Fan Kinjao felt that the laughter coming from the other side of the room was extremely harsh. The eldest sister-in-law can hate the Hua family, and she can even want to plot against her. She can accept this. Since he had planned to break up the relationship at the beginning, Fan Kinjao was not afraid of being hated by his eldest sister-in-law. "But my elder brother is my eldest aunt's biological son, and even a tiger's poison cannot eat its seeds. What's more, my elder brother has always been filial to my eldest aunt. But now my eldest sister-in-law doesn't even care about her brother's life and death because she hates the Hua family. If people can achieve this, then there is really no value to talk about. Go to my yard and bring a few more quilts, and ask Nanny Su to prepare more charcoal pots for you. There is no empty yard in this mansion, but you can't make a big show of it, otherwise it will only make your brother feel even worse." Guilt. The maid nodded hurriedly. "I'll do it now." It was Hua Fenning who was in a daze in the study room. When he saw Fan Kinjao entering the door, he stood up and said, "Kinjao, why are you here? But what's the matter?" Fan Kinjao glanced at the jade pendant in his brother's hand, then smiled and said, "I just miss my brother. Can't I come over to visit him if nothing happens?" Hua Fenning said hurriedly, "It's not that I can't, it's just that this study is too cold. It's not good for your health if you stay here longer. How about I accompany you to sit in your yard?" Fan Kinjao shook his head and took the initiative to sit on the damp chair. "If my brother can live here, why can't I stay?" Hua Fenning sighed helplessly, "I can't let my mother and sister live here. Fortunately, it's convenient to live in the study and read." Fan Kinjao smiled and said, I don't mean to blame my brother, uncle. My mother is my brother's biological mother, and it is natural for my brother to respect his aunt, but as a sister, it is reasonable for me to feel sorry for my brother. Hua Fengning felt very sour in his heart after hearing this. Seeing that Fan Qingjie was wearing light clothes, he quickly took the big cloak hanging aside and put it around Fan Qingjie's body. I know that my mother has done a lot of things that she shouldn't have done, and I also know that my grandfather and grandmother and the family members people are wary of their mother, but she has always given birth to me. If I don't even care about family affection, how can I be worthy of being a human being? Fan Qingjie is well aware of his brother's difficulties. But in many things, you always have to make choices before you can move on. Life is like this, you can never have your cake and eat it too. Brother, do you know why my eldest sister-in-law insists on my brother marrying Miss Kong? Hua Fengning was startled, then smiled bitterly and said, no matter what the reason is, it doesn't matter anymore. Normally speaking, it's really not that important. Since Hua Fengning went to the Kong family to see the bride and made an engagement with the Kong family, no matter whether it was windy or rainy, he would definitely get the Miss Kong family to marry him. And it was obvious that Hua Fengning had little confidence in his mother. So, it's better to be confused. But Fan Qingjie insisted on letting his brother understand the plan between his eldest aunt and the Kong family. The eldest aunt knew that the Kong family's business had been lost, so she went to the Kong family and wanted to use her brother to marry a young lady from the Kong family, so that she could get a dowry from the Hua family, and then the eldest aunt would split the money with the Kong family in half, use it to take care of Sister Xinying's dowry. After Sister Xinying also marries the young master of the Kong family, the eldest sister-in-law can take care of Sister Xinying's dowry. Hua Fengning's shocked pupils trembled. He knew that with his mother's character, he would never find the Kong family without any reason. But I didn't expect that. When I actually heard it with my own ears, I still couldn't believe it. Fan Qingjie looked at his brother's injured look, paused, and said, Auntie-in-law doesn't have to worry about not having enough money for the dowry. Anyway, by then, Sister Xinying and her brother will be at the Kong family. Aunt-in-law has no money, so she can find someone else. Sister Xinying is looking for her brother again. Once you are hurt, you must hurt it to the end. Only by making my brother hurt to the point of pain can he be reborn. After hearing these words, Hua Fengning was silent for a long time before saying, I wonder where Qingjie heard this. Just listening to it seems outrageous. How could my mother do it? Fan Qingjie looked at the increasingly bitter smile on his brother's face and remained silent without answering. Hua Fengning added, my mother also wants me and Xinying to settle down in the future. Besides, my mother is getting older and it's normal to want to have more money. Even if I owe the betrothal gift to Qingjie first, I'll take it easy later. Hearing these words, Fan Qingjie understood that his brother was not disbelieving, but was deliberately escaping from reality. However, Fan Qingjie did not continue talking, but stopped talking at the point. In the last life, when her brother helped her murder Zhongliang, he also nodded in pain and helplessness. It was precisely because of this that my brother at that time finally died. When dealing with relatives, my brother is always so considerate and tolerant. But in this life, Fan Qingjie must not watch his brother being pushed into a pit of fire by family affection again. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 562. Chapter 562, Give the seeds time to germinate. Later, Nanny Su wiped Fan Qingjie's hair. After hearing what happened to the eldest young master, she was also helpless. The eldest young master has been filial since he was a child, but filial piety is good. If you are foolish and filial, you may harm others and yourself. If the young lady wants to make the eldest young master believe it, you can please show the letter sent by the young master of the Su family to the eldest young master. Fan Kinjao looked at himself in the bronze mirror and said, if a person wants to deceive himself and others, he will stick to his own ideas even if a mountain of iron is placed in front of him. So, Fan Kinjao decided to proceed step by step. Even though my brother has been helping his aunt to think about it today, this matter has already taken root in his heart. If you want your brother's resistance to break out completely and let him choose between the Hua family and his aunt, you have to let the seed in his heart germinate. There is no need to rush. Just take your time. That evening, Fan Kinjao asked Ningtian to go to Su's house again and ask Su Shaoxi when he would leave the main city. Su Shaoxi has been doing business with Fan Kinjao for such a long time, but Fan Kinjao has never shown such concern. Suddenly, I feel so confused. What's going on? However, Su Shaoxi still gave a clear answer and will stay in the main city until the end of the year. In this way, Fan Kinjao was completely relieved. As long as Su Shaoxi is still in the main city, there is still room for change in his brother's marriage. I wonder if the arrival of Fan Kinjao yesterday made the eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei panic. She didn't sleep all night and quietly went to Kong's house early the next morning. The next afternoon, Mrs. Kong's wife came to the door in person, hoping to marry her daughter before the year before. When you enter the house before the new year, shouldn't the ceremony begin now? The other daughters-in-law of the Hua family were frightened when they heard the news. I have heard that the man can't wait to marry his wife. I have never seen a daughter-in-law take the initiative to go to her husband's house. The Kong family really didn't even want to lose face in order to quickly confirm the matter. Tao Yuxian also felt that getting married a few years ago was a bit hasty, but Hua Fengning nodded in agreement. Seeing this, Tao Yuxian couldn't say anything more and could only turn around to discuss with her husband. Hua Yaoding's head hurt so much that it could explode when he thinks of the word Kong family. Just because of this misfortune, he now has kidney failure even when he raises his head in front of Master Wu. Although the master of the Wu family knew about this, he did not blame the Hua family. But the more this happened, the more Hua Yaoding felt that there was no place for his old face. Now that the marriage between the Kong family and the Hua family has reached this stage, what else is there to discuss? Just marry. The two elders of the Hua family agreed, and the next step was to go through the ceremony. The daughters-in-law of each house knew about this, and they all took out a lot of money and sent it to the main courtyard. Fan Kinjao also opened his small warehouse and sent the betrothal gift list prepared for his brother to his grandmother. Tao Yuxian looked at the gift list in his hand and was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. As a shop that is sought after by all the nobles in the main city, King Nanzai earns a lot of profit every month. But Tao Yuxian never expected that his little Kinjao would be so rich. These are all the things you saved hard. Our Hua family only needs a lot of money to marry a daughter-in-law. There is no need to waste money like this. What should we do if we have a big appetite for destroying the Kong family? But Fan Kinjao said, brother is the eldest grandson of our family, so getting married is naturally a big event, and we must not take it lightly. But these are all my thoughts for my brother, as well as Tianyu, Muyan, and the second sister's dowry. I have been preparing them secretly. If grandma pushes back all these, my granddaughter will be very sad. Tao Yuxian. It saves you money and makes you sad. It's just that the emperor is still suspicious of the Hua family. I'm afraid it's not good to be so arrogant at this time. What the Hua family experienced in the past really cannot be experienced again. Fan Kinjao said, Grandma can rest assured that my grandson will have her own freedom. Brother's marriage must not only be publicized. And the more public it is, the better. Tao Yuxian knew that his little Kinjao was not short of money, and when he thought that this was ultimately the child's wish, he did not refuse. After handing the betrothal gift list to Aunt He, Tao Yuxian said again, your grandfather has personally gone to the Wu family to explain the affairs of the Wu family, but I always thought that I would still have to meet Miss Wu. That child is quite okay. If you feel sad because of our Hua family, then our Hua family has done something wrong. Fan Kinjao also had the intention to meet the Miss Wu family, so he said, "Grandma is the elder after all. If you run around like this for the younger generation's affairs, you will inevitably lose your dignity. It just so happens that I can talk to the Miss Wu family, so this matter, if Grandma doesn't worry, just leave it to me." Tao Yuxian didn't expect that this child would even think of these things, so he smiled and said, "If I can't even trust you to do things, then I'm afraid there will be no one else in the world that I can trust." Fan Kinjao got her grandmother's nod and sent the post to the Wu family that afternoon. Unexpectedly, the Wu family replied an hour later and settled in a tea house on the main street. When Fan Kinjao heard the news, he quickly changed his clothes and walked to the door, but he didn't want to see his brother at the door. Hua Fengning didn't say where he got the news from, but just handed over the jade pendant in his hand. "I heard that Kinjao is going to see Miss Wu, so please help me return this jade pendant to her. He saved her last time, so she gave him this jade pendant to express her gratitude. He has been wearing it for such a long time, and he also thought about wearing it forever. But now it seems that it may not be possible." Fan Kinjao looked at the jade pendant and remembered the scene when his brother was playing with it in a daze. But since her brother handed it to her, she also took it in her hand. Before people learn to cherish, they always have to experience loss before they realize how precious they are. Hua Fengning felt that his palms were empty and instinctively wanted to hold on tighter again, but Fan Kinjao didn't give him a chance. He put the jade pendant into his sleeve and got on the carriage neatly. Hua Fengning looked at the carriage that was gradually driving away, leaving only a wry smile on his face. So be it. Compared with Hua Fengning, Wu Qiuezao's improvement was much better. Fan Kinjao was also surprised when he saw it for the first time. Wu Qiuezao quickly pulled Fan Kinjao to sit down, asked carefully about the pastries he liked to eat, and hurriedly asked the waiter in the restaurant to prepare them. When he turned around and saw Fan Kinjao looking at her in surprise, he showed a hint of helplessness. "Smile. But you're surprised that I'm not sad or sad?" Fan Kinjao looked at Wu Qiuezao sitting opposite and shook his head. "I am surprised, but this is not bad." Wu Qiuezao said, "Life is only a few dozen years in total. One day is sad and one day is happy. Since some things cannot be changed, it is better to accept them with peace of mind." Fan Kinjao. Such a free and easy temperament really amazed her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 563. Chapter 563. The Hua family will give you an explanation. Everyone can pick it up, but it is even more difficult to put it down. There are not many people who can admire Fan Kinjao after reviving his life. Miss Wu really needs to be counted. Grandma didn't expect that the Kong family would be the first to get there first. It's my Hua family's fault to blame. Even if the Wu family doesn't care, things that should be explained clearly still need to be made clear. The Kong family is even capable of such things as robbing people on the way. Fan Kinjao is such a character that he dares to gamble. Don't just act well despite being cheap, but sometimes you want to put a basin on the flower's head. After hearing Fan Kinjao's words, it was Wu Qiuezao's turn to be surprised. Didn't Hua Fengning choose it himself? Fan Kinjao. This Kong family is really not the most shameless, only more shameless. Hua Yaoding has actually explained the problem between the Hua family and the Kong family to the master of the Wu family. But Mrs. Kong couldn't bear to go to Wu's house all day long, and Mrs. Kong always said that it was Hua Fengning who accidentally bumped into Miss Kong when she returned to the city, and she fell in love with Miss Kong at first sight, so she decided to make this decision. Marriage. Although what Mrs. Kong said was different from what Hua Yaoding said, the Kong family felt that it was outrageous to take the initiative to rob someone. Naturally, they believed Mrs. Kong's words and thought that the Hua family had no reason to shirk, so they made such an excuse. So now, Wu Qiuzhao was naturally surprised when he heard Fan Qingjiao's words. Not to mention Wu Qiuzhao, even Fan Qingjiao was eaten up by the shamelessness of the Kong family. Is it not? Of course not. The Kong family themselves are shameless, and Fan Qingjiao certainly will not save any face for the Kong family. He directly told what happened, including the Kong family and his eldest sister-in-law who jointly plotted against the Hua family. Wu Qiuzhao. I feel like my worldview has collapsed. But compared to Mrs. Kong's words, Wu Qiuzhao believed in Fan Qingjiao sitting opposite. So now when I think about Kong Qingying innocently running up to her after what happened, pretending to be pitiful and aggrieved with her, I feel like vomiting. Seeing that the fire was almost done, Fan Qingjiao handed over the jade pendant. My brother asked me to give this to Miss Wu before leaving. Wu Qiuzhao took the jade pendant and gave a wry smile. Sure enough, your brother thinks best. No matter what the reason is, the facts cannot be changed. In this case, it is best for both of us to look forward. Fan Qingjiao said, if it were me, I would be happy instead of sentimental. Wu Qiuzhao was stunned. Fan Qingjiao added, if my brother is ruthless to Miss Wu family, how can he treasure this jade pendant all the time? Wu Qiuzhao. Can you still think so? Fan Qingjiao nodded, of course. Miss Wu is right. Life is indeed short. That's why you have to watch the people and things you like and love go away from you. It's not bad to go with the flow, but you can only hold on to everything that belongs to you. Only by holding it tightly in your own hands will you live this life in vain. This is also the purpose of her coming here this time, and her voice is almost smoking. Otherwise, do you really think she is so idle? It's true that my brother has feelings for Miss Wu, but it's also true that the Hua family and the Kong family are having trouble. Although this matter seems to be a sure thing, it's not completely without hope. Do you have any idea? I need Miss Wu family to do me a favor. Wu Qiuzhao looked at the jade pendant in his hand hesitantly, and then he said firmly when he raised his head, tell me, as long as the eldest young master of the Hua family really has feelings for me, it will be like a mountain of swords and a sea of fire. I always want to take a walk. Fan Qingjiao said, it's not that difficult. I just hope that before things change, Miss Wu's family will not break up with Miss Kong's family, so that Miss Wu's family can marry Miss Kong's family as she should. Wu Qiuzhao was a little confused. If she is already married, what does it matter to me? Fan Qingjiao stretched out his hand and clasped it together with Wu Qiuzhao's hand. Believe me, the Hua family will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. This kind of Fan Qingjiao is incredibly calm. The sun shines on her body, reflecting each other's dark eyes. Obviously they are both women, but her delicate face highlights a kind of masculine spirit and majesty. Even Wu Qiuzhao blushed for no reason and nodded subconsciously. Fan Qingjiao breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Wu Qiuzhao nodded. In this way, the matter is half successful again. When we left the tea house, it was just as the sun was setting, and it was also the busiest time in the main city. There are rumors in the city now that there is a businessman from the western regions who is staying in an inn in the main city. It was not something that caught people's attention at first, but it happened that the businessman was getting younger every day under the eyes of everyone. In just a few days, the businessman seemed to be several years younger. News about the main city spread quickly, and the merchant lived on the main street. For a while, many people came to watch. It is precisely because of this that the main city began to spread rumors that the merchants from the western regions were actually immortal. After all, this is something that the people in the main city have seen with their own eyes, and there is no need to doubt it. When Fan Qingjiao passed by the main street in a carriage, he happened to see the inn where the merchants from the western regions were staying. He heard that the merchants from the western regions were telling the secret of why they were young. Soon, the people on the main street all knew that this businessman from the western regions accidentally obtained the carcass of a rare animal in the ice wilderness, and then took out the heart blood and drank it, so that he could stay young forever. The rumors in the main city immediately intensified. Within a few days, news came from Prince Heshuo that the imperial court had begun secretly investigating the businessman. Fan Kinjao knew that the person in the palace was probably moved. But if you want to catch big fish, you have to continue to put out the line now. That night, Fan Kinjao wrote a reply to his adoptive father and asked the man pretending to be a businessman to leave the inn. In the palace, Emperor Yongchang looked at the spy who was kneeling in front of him and asked with a gloomy expression, "Leaving? When I returned to the emperor, he has indeed left. Just 2 hours before my subordinates arrived, the merchant had already left the city. I heard that he was heading west, but no one knew his specific destination. What did the man leave behind? I heard that before the businessman left, he said he wanted to make a big deal. After careful investigation, my subordinates found out that the businessman said that he still had the carcasses of rare and exotic animals in his hands, and threatened that he would be there in half a month. Returning to the main city again, I need 10,000 taels of gold, so I will give the body of the rare beast to the destined person." Emperor Yongchang was suspicious by nature. When he heard that the merchant had left, he felt that something was fishy. He waved his hand and pushed the spies away, but his own heart could not calm down. Rejuvenation, immortality. If this medicine really existed, why would he worry about not being able to sit in his current chair for eternity? End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 564. Chapter 564. What a scumbag. The long night was long, and Emperor Yongchang's heart could not be calm for a long time. Although he suspected that this matter was too ridiculous, he was still inexplicably moved. On the road, suddenly there were two sneaky figures. Emperor Yongchang stopped defensively, thinking about the assassin that day, and subconsciously called for someone to him. Bai Tu was the first to say doubtfully, "Those two people seem to be palace servants of Fenji Palace." Emperor Yongchang was stunned. "You said they are from the queen's side." Bai Tu looked at it carefully and said with certainty, "I often go to Fenji Palace to help the emperor convey messages, so I can't be mistaken. Those two little eunuchs are the ones serving the queen." Being so sneaky in the middle of the night really makes people have to think too much. Emperor Yongchang became increasingly uneasy when he thought about the assassination incident last time. Although he never said anything on the surface, he knew that concubine Yu and the queen were not on good terms. Could it really be the queen? Emperor Yongchang frowned, leaving the people behind him and walked over with only Bai Tu. The two young eunuchs walked all the way into Fenji Palace and turned into the small kitchen. At this time, the small kitchen was filled with smoke, and someone seemed to be busy in it. Emperor Yongchang took a closer look and saw that the queen was among them. Lily looked at the boiling pot in front of her and asked softly, "Mother, are you really not going to tell the emperor?" Empress Zhen 11 said, "The emperor works hard day and night, so he doesn't need to worry about this little thing anymore. But I didn't expect that man to be so useless. He only did the thing once and ran away." Lily comforted him, "Don't worry, madam. Since he took your money, he will always come back when he tastes the sweetness." Empress Zhen 11 sighed, "I hope so. What does the queen wish for?" Emperor Yongchang's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Queen Zhengzi and Lily turned around in shock, and saw Emperor Yongchang striding over and lifting the lid of the pot. The angry look on his face was clearly visible in the candle light. "It's just that there is only boiling white water in the pot." After reacting, Queen Zhengzi and Lily quickly knelt on the ground to say hello. Emperor Yongchang looked at the pot with only white water for a long time, then turned back to look at the queen. "It's so late at night, queen, this is..." Before she finished speaking, Queen Zhen 11 raised her head. It was this look that made Emperor Yongchang stunned on the spot. This is how long it has been since we last seen each other. The face that was full of fatigue and vicissitudes of life in my impression has become radiant. In the shocked eyes of Emperor Yongchang, Queen Zhen 11 looked like she had admitted her mistake. I just wanted to give the emperor a surprise, but I didn't expect it to turn out like this. Surprise. I heard rumors in the main city that someone was rejuvenated, so I was chatting with the prince when I wrote a letter. I didn't expect the prince to be interested, so I asked my concubine to go to the East Palace to take out all the salary he had saved over the years to see if he could find it. The merchant bought the carcasses of rare animals in the ice wilderness, but I didn't want to send someone to spend hundreds of thousands of taels, but only bought a drop of blood. I was worried that he was a liar, so I thought I would try it first, but unexpectedly. It's effective. The more Empress Zhen 11 said, the more annoyed she became. In this case, I was thinking of sending someone to buy it and show it to the emperor. Unexpectedly, the person left and only gave it to me. The person who was sent left a message saying that he would come back to trade after a while. Emperor Yongchang looked at the queen kneeling in front of him and remained silent for a long time. He thought he was the only one who cared about immortality, but unexpectedly, someone else thought the same thing. After thinking about it carefully, he found that the queen's words were almost the same as the information he had found out, and his scrutinizing eyes gradually became softer. Emperor Yongchang suddenly remembered that when the queen first married him, he was just a prince with no power, but the queen was as cautious as she is today. She even told him that no matter what position he was in the queen's heart, he will always be her god. Queen Zhen 11 felt a chill in her heart when she saw the emperor's face filled with nostalgia. I think that she was too naive when he deceived her into being with him, thinking that they were good together, but in the end, she got used to him so much that he didn't take her as a person at all. Damn scumbag. With your virtues, you still want to live forever? Do you really think God is blind? Recalling the time when Emperor Yongchang looked at the queen with a rare softness in his eyes, he personally helped her up and asked, "Have you always corresponded with the crown prince?" Empress Zhen 11 answered calmly, "The prince has been living in the palace since he woke up, so it is inevitable that he will be flustered. I knew that the emperor was busy, so I decided to write him a letter privately." Emperor Yongchang nodded, with such a confused look. It was more like the prince's appearance in his impression. But such a timid and cowardly child, when he heard the queen mention immortality, he wanted to use money to buy medicine for himself. Hundreds of thousands, I'm afraid that's all the prince's salary has been in recent years. Just as I was thinking about it, I heard Queen Zhen 11 say again, "I heard that the emperor sent someone to the palace, but Sister Yu is not feeling well again? It is actually right to call the Ji Yuan judge back to the palace. The prince has woken up now. The imperial court is in the palace, and the emperor's dragon body is also protected." Emperor Yongchang coughed awkwardly. "The queen is right, I think so too. I think the prince is as reasonable as he is, and he will definitely understand." "I understand you, uncle." Queen Zhen 11 felt even colder when she saw the emperor borrowing the donkey from the slope. "They are both your women, but you are a bowl of water. They are also sons, but you chose to go to your grandma's house. Now do you still have the nerve to be reasonable with me? I am reasonable enough if I don't dig out all your ancestral graves with a 20-meter sword." Emperor Yongchang looked at the queen standing softly under the candlelight, and his heart grew more and more hopeful and yearning. Hearing what the queen meant, she just drank a drop of blood to achieve such an effect. If the merchant could really come back with the body of a rare animal, wouldn't he really want to live forever? The more Emperor Yongchang thought about it, the more excited he became, and he had no time to stay with the queen any longer. After giving a few simple instructions, he turned around and left with Baitu. As soon as the emperor left, Lily lost her strength and even stood a little unsteadily. I really scared the slave to death. Lily still remembers the way the emperor first came in, with such murderous aura that he could kill the queen and the queen even if she didn't feel relieved. Queen Zhen 11 smiled coldly, since I have the courage to lure the wolf here, I have the means to smooth out his choking hair. Concubine Yu has been favored over the years, not only because of her face, but also because of her ability to seduce men. They are both women, and she can do whatever concubine Yu can do. Lily said with some worry, but the servant listened to the emperor's wishes and did not let the prince come back. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 565. Chapter 565. She really has no good intentions. Empress Zhen 11 was very indifferent, as long as it makes the emperor feel itchy, that's enough. Given the emperor's suspicion, the more she spoke, the easier it was for her to be suspected. But the emperor himself thought differently. Empress Zhen 11 also didn't expect that kid Xiao Qinjiao would really dare to do it. And she also went crazy with the child. Concubine Qi oppressed her harder and harder, becoming more and more shameless. If she didn't take the gamble, she didn't know if she would ever see her son again. There are always some risks in a person's life. While she still has energy, it would be worthwhile to go crazy if she goes crazy. I don't know what kind of medicine the princess sent to the empress. It really made the empress younger. Seeing that the empress was worried, Lily took the initiative to change the subject. Empress Zhen 11 touched her face and sighed softly. Xiao Qinjiao asked Hua Yaoding to bring in a message, saying that although this medicine can help restore appearance, taking it for a long time will have no effect on the body. How can there be anything in this world? What is true immortality? If it were true, wouldn't these people in the royal family become old goblins? Lily was amused. What the queen said is true, you think clearly. It's not that I think clearly, but when I think that if I really want to live forever with the emperor, I can't wait to find a rope to hang around my neck. Empress Zhen 11 didn't want to see that face again. Fortunately, her drama has come to an end now, and the rest is up to the emperor to investigate by himself. Empress Zhen 11 was right. Emperor Yongchang left Fenji Palace and sent spies to investigate the matter overnight. The result was that it was found that people had been leaving Fenji Palace one after another in the past few days, and it was also found that the prince had indeed been exchanging letters with the queen. In this case, it would be impossible for Emperor Yongchang not to believe it. Sitting in the imperial study, Emperor Yongchang kept thinking about the queen's face and words. If it is true as the queen said, the businessman will still come back. A person who has immortality naturally wants to be rich and glorious. But where is he going to raise 10,000 taels of gold? Bai Tu looked at the emperor's frown and said softly, "Why don't we let the third prince go to Huaishang again?" Emperor Yongchang was silent for a long time, but did not speak. Of course he wants to send someone to Huaishang, and the sooner the better. As long as he has money in his hands, he can just wait for the merchant to come back. But when he thought that the third prince had been beaten to a pulp in Huaishang, Emperor Yongchang couldn't help but frown. Just wanting to be absolutely foolproof is something that the third prince cannot do. Outside the door, a report from the young suddenly sounded, "Your Majesty, someone from Yu Palace sent a message, saying that concubine Yu's chest has begun to hurt again." At the same time, Fan Qinjiao also received the news sent by the queen. The emperor has been in the imperial study, even when concubine Yu personally sent someone to invite him, he didn't even pay attention. Empress Zhengzi almost died of joy when she got the news. Having been pretending to be sick all day long, is it a sour feeling to be rejected by the emperor this time? Fan Qinjiao looked at the queen's uncontrollable expression of pleasure in the letter and curled her lips silently. With the emperor's suspicious temperament, he would never really say that wind is rain. However, since the emperor can reject concubine Yu's invitation today, it means that he has begun to be tempted and hesitant. One bite will not make you fat. Not in a hurry. There is no need to rush. Now it's up to her or the emperor to see who can't sit still first. For several days in a row, the court was covered with dark clouds. No one knows why the emperor has such a donkey face, as if he is owed money. The people in the court were in panic, and everyone was making secret guesses and being cautious. Only Hua Yaoding went back to his house after leaving the court every day, as if he didn't even hear what was going on outside the window. But no one can say anything about Hua Yaoding. After all, everyone now knows that the affairs between the Hua family and the Kong family have been finalized, and they are about to get married. The Kong family, who had received the betrothal gift, were in a great position. They spent all day arrogantly going through the market with plenty of food and fish. I heard that the money that the young master of the Kong family threw into the flower house in one night was enough for ordinary people to survive for a year. The master of the Kong family is not a fuel-efficient lamp. On the day he received the betrothal gift, he found a lot of people and said that he wanted to renovate the mansion. He even threatened to build an artificial lake in his mansion. A painting boat was bought for the Kong family to visit the lake and enjoy the scenery on weekdays. This Kong family has really gone too far. Those things were all saved by the young lady for the eldest young master for a long time, but now they have become a group of moths. When Nanny Su thought about the rumors about the Kong family in the city, she felt angry. Pain. Fan Kinjao was indifferent. The Kong family is a spendthrift family, so how could they know how difficult it is to make money? When the eldest young master marries the young lady from the Kong family, we still don't know how our Hua family will be tortured by the young lady from the Kong family and suicide. A young lady was raised in a mansion where even the elders were incompatible. What good could it be? Fan Kinjao said, the Kong family can only think about marrying into the Hua family. Mother Su was stunned. What do you mean, young lady? Fan Kinjao smiled and said nothing, turned around and called Ningguan to come in. Now that the sweet spot has been given to the Kong family, it is naturally time to collect interest. It's just that it's not convenient for her to come forward this time, so she can only ask for help from the Su family. Of course, Fan Kinjao will not really let the Su family's work go in vain, and will pay the Su family 1/10 of the betrothal gift for their hard work. When Su Shaoxi was asked whether he would leave the main city, he felt that Fan Kinjao had no good intentions. Now looking at Fan Kinjao's letter, it turns out it's not a good idea. After reading the letter, Su Shaoxi looked curiously at Ningguan, who sent the letter. How much is the betrothal gift for your eldest young master? Ningguan just said a number with her fingers. Su Shaoxi, is this taking a wife? I'm afraid I'm not marrying a fairy. Su Shaoxi, who has always been kind to money, really has no reason to refuse. Besides, it's really not that difficult to harm the Kong family. The Kong family has never had any business acumen, otherwise, within a few years, all the original family business would have been wiped out and very little would be left. Now that the Kong family is in the hands of Su Shaoxi, it can be said that there is no way to survive at all. In just a few days, the Kong family was defrauded of a large part of the betrothal gift by Su Shaoxi. Coupled with the fact that the Kong family was extravagant during this period, when I looked back at the Hua family's betrothal gifts, they had already bottomed out. At this time, it is impossible for the Kong family to remain calm. At the Kong family, Kong Qingying looked at her father and mother, who were helpless, with an ugly expression on her face. In just a short time, the betrothal gift was empty. In this case, what will she spend after arriving at Hua's house? Mrs. Kong comforted her and said, "What are you afraid of? When you become the daughter-in-law of the Hua family, will the Hua family still treat you badly?" Kong Qingying has met Hua Fengning and thinks that Hua Fengning is a good person, but when she thinks of Fan Kinjao's words and deeds at the tea house that day, she would be lying if she said she was not frightened. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 566. Chapter 566. The Kong family was trapped. Fan Kinjao is very powerful. Now Fan Kinjao is not married yet. Once I marry into the Hua family, I will have to look at Fan Kinjao's face every day. I heard that Hua Fanning loves Fan Kinjao's sister very much. I'm afraid I won't have a foothold in the Hua family at all. Kong Qingying was first afraid of Fan Kinjao's short hands, and secondly, she was afraid of Fan Kinjao's title. The future crown princess will be the royal daughter-in-law. Looking further back, she may be the new queen of Ziliang. Why should she compete with others? Mrs. Kong's wife didn't want her daughter to suffer a loss when she married to the Hua family, so she looked at her husband aside. Now Mr. Kong also has a severe headache. Now either the daughter is marrying into the Hua family without a betrothal gift, or the money that was originally meant to be given to the eldest aunt of the Hua family has been defrauded of all the money. Now, he doesn't know how to explain to the eldest mistress of the Hua family how he can take care of his daughter. When Kong Nianhui heard that Xinying had lost her dowry, he also made a fuss and refused to marry Xinying. The eldest lady from the Hua family is just average looking. I agreed to marry her in the hope that she could bring something back to our family. If there is really not a penny for the dowry, she will not even be able to step into my door. The master of the Kong family was extremely angry. I made the agreement with the Hua family's grandma at the beginning. How can I allow you to go back on your word? A woman with no face and no money makes me sick when I look at her. Unless she has the face of a princess, I will recognize her even if she has no money. Kong Nianhui sat back on the chair with a look of aftertaste on his face. That day when his sister accompanied the Miss Wu family to meet the crown princess, he had seen her from a distance outside. Although it looked a bit cold and it was difficult to get closer, Sheng's face was really outstanding. That night, he dreamed about that face. Mrs. Kong was so frightened that she said, "Is this the future crown princess you are talking about? Shut up now." A servant suddenly came to report, "The eldest aunt of the Hua family is here with the eldest daughter of the Hua family." The Kong family. It couldn't have come at a better time. The eldest daughter-in-law, Ling Wei, naturally came to ask for money. Seeing that the betrothal gifts had been delivered, she hurriedly came to get her own share. But it turned out that Yinza didn't see it, but instead heard a bolt from the blue. The Kong family's money was all deceived by others. The eldest daughter-in-law, Ling Wei, felt that her eyes were going dark and she could no longer stand still. "Why are you, the Kong family, going back on your word?" Mrs. Kong's wife hurriedly came over and helped her eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei sit on the chair. "My in-laws, we didn't want to do that either. We originally planned to give more to the in-laws if we made money. The in-laws have a lot of money, so we watched. I am also happy, but who would have thought that I would meet someone unkind?" Of course Mrs. Kong cannot really break up with her eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei. If the marriage fails, the Kong family will return all the betrothal gifts from the Hua family. The eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei looked at the slippery-tongued Mrs. Kong and wanted to slap her. If there is really a big quarrel with the Kong family, what advantage can she take? Always have to find a way to have both ends. The day after tomorrow is the day of marriage. If she really doesn't have a penny and lets Miss Kong get married, she won't be able to do it even if the Kong family wants her. In this case, wouldn't these days of hard work be in vain? Xinying suddenly said, "Fan Kinjao seems to be very rich. I saw that my brother's betrothal gifts were all moved out of the warehouse in her yard. Since he can get a betrothal gift for his brother once, he can get a second betrothal gift for his brother." These words reminded everyone present. Since Fan Kinjao and Hua Fanning are close brothers and sisters, they will not be short of money. The eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei gets angry whenever she thinks of Fan Kinjao always pestering her son. Soon, the Hua family will have a crown princess. If my son's marriage makes a fool of himself, she will be the crown prince. His face is naturally dull. After hearing this, Mr's son's wife knew that the eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei had an idea. What do you mean by the Hua family's grandma? We haven't welcomed the bride yet, so the matter has not been decided yet, but when the wedding day comes, it will really happen. If anything happens, even if the Hua family doesn't want to, we will still have to lead it, otherwise the Hua family will not be able to safely marry their granddaughter-in-law Ling Wei. The eldest daughter-in-law smiled coldly. Hearing these words, the Kong family looked at each other. Although I think this is a bit outrageous, since it is the Hua family's grandma's idea, I'm afraid it will come true. With the matter resolved, the Kong family naturally wanted to invite their eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei and Xinying to dinner. The eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei did not refuse and sat on the main seat with peace of mind. At the dinner table, Xinying kept leaning towards Kong Nianhui. This Kong Nianhui is the only grandson of the Kong family. When she becomes the granddaughter-in-law, she will enjoy endless blessings. As for Kong Nianhui's love of attracting bees and butterflies outside, Xinying didn't care at all. My mother is right, as long as a woman has money, she can live comfortably on her own, and there is no need for the company of a man. Besides, if you look at any high-end mansion in the main city, there are not many wives and concubines. Kong Nianhui looked at Xinying's face and felt that he deserved to be uncomfortable. He just couldn't figure it out. They were all from the Hua family, so why did Xinying not look like the crown princess at all? But even if he didn't want to bear it, Kong Nianhui still sat stiffly on the chair. Anyway, Xinying will only get a pair of chopsticks when he comes in. As long as he has money, he can have any kind of woman he wants. Kong Qingying sat aside silently, watching everyone at the dinner table thoughtfully. She has really had enough of staying in this family. Her father and mother have always been partial to her younger brother. They wanted to marry her off to a rich man in the countryside as a concubine just for money. Fortunately, she heard Hua Fenning's name from Wu Kaiozeo, so she kept an eye out and persuaded her mother to inquire about it. Unexpectedly, her mother found out about the eldest grandma of the Hua family. This coming and going indicates today's plan. Although she could not say that she liked Hua Fenning was handsome, tall, and mighty, and his words were very gentle. He was simply a man that no other woman could ask for. As long as she marries into the Hua family and takes good care of Hua Fenning, she won't have to worry about having a good life. At the very least, it is better than looking at your parents who are partial to you all the time and worrying about marrying into a rich family as a concubine. Just when the Kong family was having a lively meal, a figure quietly jumped off the wall of the Kong family. A quarter of an hour later, the black figure stood in front of Fan Qinjiao. Fan Qinjiao felt a chill in his heart as he listened to Lange's report. She knew that with the greed of the Kong family and her eldest sister-in-law, they would not be deceived. Knew it? This scheming has come and gone, and the scheming ended up on her head again. Just if she wants to be taken advantage of, it depends on whether they have the ability. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 567. Chapter 567. The Emperor is summoned to the palace. It is a good day for the Hua family to get married. It is rare to have such good sunshine before winter, and there are even more pedestrians on the street. In Ziliang, keeping filial piety is only for women, not men. In other words, if a relative in the family dies, only the woman must observe filial piety according to her seniority. But men can still marry wives, take concubines, and hold happy events. Hearing that the eldest young master of the Hua family was getting married, the people in the main city came over to join in the fun. The auspicious time has not yet arrived, and people are already standing outside the door of the mansion in the western suburbs. Fan Qinjiao also got up early that day, tidied up briefly and then went to his brother's yard. The servants got up in the middle of the night and had already hung up the brother's yard with red silk and pasted it with the character on it. The yard is full of joy and spotlessly clean. Tao Yuxian hurriedly asked someone to open the side door and went out to distribute wedding candies to the people standing on the street. Hua Yaoding was greeting guests in the front hall. Fan Qinjiao saw that his grandfather and grandmother were busy, so he entered the house first. Hua Fenning, who had already changed into groom's clothes, was wearing cloud boots. Her long hair was tied high behind her head, revealing her strong facial features. Seeing Fan Qinjiao enter the door, he hurriedly walked over. "This yard is in a mess. What should I do if I bump into you? Listen to my brother and go sit in the main hall first." Fan Qinjiao saw that his brother's handsome face was not happy at all, but he still remembered that he cared about her, which strengthened his thoughts. No one can bet on his brother's lifelong affairs. Not even my brother's biological mother. I came here to congratulate my brother. I'm afraid he won't have time to talk to me when I get busy soon, Fan Qinjiao said, raising his hand and carefully arranging the clothes on his brother's chest. Hua Fenning only regarded her as her younger sister and was reluctant to part with her. He squeezed out a smile and touched her head. "My brother is married but not married. You can still come to talk to me at any time after you get married." "That's right. After you get married, whenever you miss your brother, he will come to see you, okay?" In the last life, her brother also used such a gentle tone to ask her to wait for his triumphant return. But in the end, what she was waiting for was the news that her brother was burned to ashes. The same expression and the same tone made Fan Qinjiao feel a little dazed and his eyes were hazy. Hua Fenning looked at Fan Qinjiao's wet eyes, but was frightened. "Why are you crying?" Fan Qinjiao shook his head and suppressed the past that was tumbling in his heart. "I'm just happy for my brother. I'm even more happy to see my brother have his own children and be surrounded by descendants." Hua Fenning felt helpless when he heard this. Now that the bride has not come, there is no need to talk about children. As soon as the eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei entered the door, she saw her son standing with Fan Qinjiao. Although he couldn't hear what was said, the smile on his son's face made the eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei's eyes hurt. "Go, call your brother over." Ling Wei, the eldest daughter-in-law, looked at Xinying beside her. Xinying stood still and said, "If he wants to talk to Fan Qinjiao, just go ahead. For a powerless brother like him, what's the use of not wanting to talk to him?" The eldest daughter-in-law Ling Wei stretched out her hand and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? If there is no your brother this time, how can you marry into the Kong family? In the future, you only need to coax your brother well, and you will enjoy the blessings of the Kong family." She frowned in pain, and when she saw her mother's tough attitude, she walked over unwillingly. Fan Qinjiao didn't say anything when he saw Xinying calling for his brother. He turned around and left the house. Seeing that the auspicious time to welcome the bride is approaching, the number of guests in the front yard of Hua's house is still a bit pitiful. The Hua family has experienced ups and downs. Even if Hua Yaoding has returned to the court now, he no longer has any military power. How can the current courtiers take him seriously? The people standing in the front yard today and being polite are just people who used to be a little pretentious. The common people felt a little shabby when they looked at this scene. Those guests standing in the courtyard even thought of sneaking away while waiting to pick up the bride. Although it is true that they have some friendship with Hua Yaoding, they don't have much friendship. The Hua family is now destitute, and if word spreads, their faces will be disgraced. Suddenly, someone else walked in from the front door. The guests looked around subconsciously, and saw Bai Tu stopping in front of Hua Yaoding with the little walking away. "My servant congratulates General Hua on his new wife. Your Majesty is very pleased to learn that General Hua has married his granddaughter-in-law. However, the Emperor is really busy with government affairs nowadays. To put it nicely, there are no magpies flying in the sky. The people who serve the Emperor are sweet-mouthed." Hua Yaoding smiled modestly, "It makes the emperor worry about me, and I am ashamed to be a humble minister." Bai Tu looked around at the few guests in the courtyard and understood. When he spoke again, his voice also mentioned a lot. General Hua is devoted to the country. Even if the emperor doesn't say it, the emperor will definitely do it. Keep it in mind, otherwise the emperor would not confer Princess Jingping as the crown princess. Just yesterday, the emperor called the Minister of Rights to go and personally urge the 6 rights. Today, the emperor specially sent the servant came to take the crown princess into the palace, saying that he missed the crown princess and wanted to talk to her. Hua Yaoding certainly didn't believe it. The emperor asked Xiao Qinjiao to enter the palace to reminisce about the past. But since Bai Tu deliberately flattered the Hua family, how could he deny Bai Tu's face? Hua Yaoding nodded slightly to Bai Tu, and then ordered the servants beside him, "Go and find the young lady." The servants hurriedly looked for someone, but Bai Tu was not in a hurry, and just chatted with Hua Yaoding in a nonchalant manner. This time, the guests in the courtyard were shocked. It is true that Bai Tu was an eunuch, and it is also true that he was a eunuch. But even if he is an eunuch, he is still in front of the emperor, and even if he is a eunuch, he is the chief steward of the emperor. Just because of this identity, the ministers present could not curry favor even if they wanted to. But look at Hua Yaoding, chatting happily with Manager Bai, whom they couldn't please. This scene is really exciting. When Fan Qinjiao followed the messenger to the front yard, he saw his grandfather and Bai Tu chatting enthusiastically, and the guests in the yard looked at each other with envy. "I would like to send my regards to the crown princess." Bai Tu met Fan Qinjiao and took the initiative to say hello with his luggage. Fan Qinjiao hurriedly helped Bai Tu up with his own hands, and stuffed a bag of wedding candies over with a smile. "I heard that Manager Bai was coming, so I specially brought a bag of wedding candies over." Manager Bai was also happy, so it was not a waste of time take this trip. Bai Tu weighed the bag in his hand. It was heavy. Look at the way the crown princess behaves, it makes people feel comfortable. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 568. Chapter 568 Encounter with the Third Prince. Bai Tu accepted the bag of wedding candy and said with a smile, "Princess, please invite me, the emperor is already waiting for you." Hua Yaoding frowned when he heard this. "The emperor summoned Xiao Qinjiao at this time. I am afraid it is related to what happened a few days ago." Looking at his grandfather's worried face, Fan Qinjiao showed a sweet smile and said, "The emperor's summons can't be delayed. I will leave the palace in a while. Fortunately, it's still early, so I will be able to eat my brother wedding wine." These words basically mean that she will leave the palace safely soon. Hearing these words, Hua Yaoding knew that Xiao Qinjiao had a plan in mind, so he stopped talking. The guests looked at Fan Qinjiao, who followed Bai Tu out of the courtyard, and their hearts that were still wandering settled down. What else to go? Where to go? The Hua family's wedding was held in a somewhat deserted manner, but now even if the sky fell, they would never leave the Hua family. Whoever gets married can have the emperor send someone to congratulate them. How embarrassing it is. Thinking about Manager Bai's attitude towards Hua Yaoding just now, the few guests in the courtyard felt lucky. Since the emperor has sent someone here, he has acknowledged the marriage. It would be difficult for them to flatter the emperor on weekdays, but they didn't expect that today, a blind cat met a dead mouse. It's a good thing that they were still worried about their past friendship and came to visit, otherwise where would they be to flatter the emperor today? Fan Qinjiao was following Bai Tu out when he saw the carriage from the Prince of Heshuo County arriving. The Prince of Heshuo County arrived, the Princess of Heshuo County arrived, and even the young prince, who had never been seen before, was brought. The young prince still remembers Fan Qinjiao. When he saw Fan Qinjiao, he babbling and stretched out his hands. Fan Qinjiao touched his little face, then looked at his adopted father and adopted mother and said, it was just because I was worried that the young prince would not be able to live without people around him, that's why he didn't let anyone send invitations to his adopted mother. Why is it now? Could you please help me come with my foster father and mother in my arms? The princess of Heshuo County took a look at the front yard and knew something in her heart. I am afraid that this child thinks that there are not many guests in the Hua family, and does not want to involve her and embarrass others. You are my goddaughter from the Prince of Heshuo County. How come the prince and I are absent when your brother gets married? Prince Heshuo had just returned from the palace. He also knew that the emperor had summoned Fan Kinjao, so he said, "Don't worry, just enter the palace. Your stepmother and I will be here to take charge." Fan Kinjao smiled gratefully before getting into the carriage. News in the main city always spreads quickly. As soon as Fan Kinjao rode his carriage onto the main street, everyone in the city knew that the emperor had sent people to congratulate the Hua family and that Prince Heshuo had gone to take charge. At this time, those ministers who had no intention of going to Hua's house couldn't sit still. Who dares to refute something that the emperor approves of? The emperor always sent people to Hua's house. If they didn't go, it would be clear that they were against the emperor. Whenever the emperor is in a bad mood and takes action on today's affairs, they can really die at home without going out. At almost the same moment, the doors of official residences opened one after another, and the ministers who were at home went into battle in person. For the ministers who were still in the palace, the eldest lady got on the carriage instead. As the carriages rushed towards the mansion in the western suburbs, the Hua family, which had just been deserted, turned into a crowded place. Fan Kinjao was sitting in the carriage, looking at the carriage whizzing past in front of him, and he naturally understood everything in his heart. Hand out her hand to lift the car curtain, she looked at Bai Tu who was following her and said, "Mr. Lao Bai is in charge of today's affairs." Even if Bai Tu really came to look for him on the emperor's order, there was no need to be so high profile. But Bai Tu just did it, and from now on, the effect is very significant. Bai Tu just smiled modestly and said, "Princess, you are serious. From now on, you will be the daughter-in-law of the royal family, and you will also be half the master of the slave. Isn't it natural for a slave to do things for the master?" Bai Tu is Bai Tu, even his speech is so impeccable. Knowing that she knew that he was from Bailey Fengming, she still deliberately said this, which was obviously a sign of loyalty. Bai Tu's heart follows the prince. Since he knows that the prince and the princess play the piano and harp in private, he is naturally partial. If they are servants who serve the king like this, if they want to have a chance to take care of themselves when the king dies, they have to keep their eyes open and find the right servant, otherwise they may accidentally end up with only a coffin. Seeing that he was about to arrive at the palace, Bai Tu lowered his voice and spoke very quickly, "The emperor is suddenly very concerned about the movements of His Highness the Crown Prince in the palace. Please be careful when the Crown Princess meets the Holy Prince." Fan Kinjao glanced at Bai Tu vaguely before dropping the curtain in his hand. In fact, when she heard that the emperor summoned her to the palace, she knew that the emperor finally couldn't sit still. Sure enough, that selfish man would do anything to live forever. Now that the emperor suddenly cares about Bailey Fengming, it naturally shows that the presence of certain people in the emperor's heart has been reduced. Just to make the emperor completely relent and let Bailey Fengming return to the city, more firewood is needed. As the carriage arrived at the palace gate, Fan Kinjao got out of the carriage and followed Bai Tu towards the imperial study. He didn't expect to run into Bailey Rongs as soon as he entered the courtyard. Bailey Rongs was obviously surprised when he saw Fan Kinjao. But soon, he returned to his usual gentle and graceful appearance, and took the initiative to talk to Fan Kinjao. "I heard that today is a good day for the eldest young master of the Hua family to get married, but I didn't expect that the princess would enter the palace at this time." Fan Kinjao looked at the well-dressed Bailey Rongs in front of him, and his feeling of disgust only increased. This man can always hate you in his heart, but smile at you like a spring breeze on his face. It was as if he was trying to trick her on purpose, but he still had to pretend to care about her. But no matter how well he pretends, it can't change the fact that he is a scumbag. After being summoned by the emperor, I must enter the palace quickly. Since you inquired, I will tell you myself. As for whether you feel uncomfortable or not, it's none of my business. How can Bailey Wrongs feel comfortable hearing this? It took a long time for the mother-in-law to calm down her father and allow him to return to the military and horse division, but after just a short time, his father began to be indifferent to him again. Just now he went to see her specially, but he didn't even get through the door. In the end, my father was waiting for Fan Kinjao. Even if the crown princess entered the palace, she was only ordered to treat the crown prince of Zhenyi Kingdom. I heard that the crown prince of Zhenyi Kingdom has shown signs of improvement. My father has always been kind and generous. It must be because of the matter of the crown prince of Zhenyi Kingdom that he wanted to reward the crown princess. These words are still full of temptation. Fan Kinjao smiled faintly. Since I have gained the emperor's trust, I will treat His Highness the Crown Prince of Zhenyi Kingdom with all my heart, but His Highness may have forgotten that I am still the Crown Princess bestowed by the Emperor. Bailey Wrongs looked at Fan Kinjao and frowned slightly. What does this mean? Could it be that the father has set his sights on the prince again? But the prince has been living in the palace, and the father suddenly remembered what the prince was going to do. Fan Kinjao has been entangled with Bailey Wrongs for a lifetime. Now, just looking at his expression, you can tell how anxious and entangled he is. What she wanted was to make him restless and anxious. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 569. Chapter 569, Favoring the Prince in Reverse. Had it not been for her quick counterattack this time, Bailey Fengming would have been isolated again. You can do all kinds of disgusting things behind your back, so why are you pretending to be a good person now? Fan Kinjao wanted Bailey Wrongs to make Bailey Wrongs upset, so that when the dust settles about Bailey Fengming's return to the palace, Bailey Wrongs would not be surprised but would become even more upset. Bailey Wrongs didn't know that all his thoughts were being seen by Fan Kinjao. After coughing while pretending to be calm, he smiled faintly and said, I was negligent. It doesn't matter if His Highness is negligent, as long as the Emperor still wants the Crown Prince in his heart. After saying these words, Fan Kinjao followed Bai Tu into the courtyard, leaving Bailey Wrongs behind. Bailey Wrongs is. It's even more troublesome. He obviously felt that Fan Kinjao had something to say, but when he didn't want to know, she deliberately brought up the subject. Now when he wanted to inquire, she stopped abruptly. This feeling of neither nor killing made Bailey Wrongs scratch his head. Fan Kinjao followed Bai Tu into the imperial study. It was gloomy inside, and the light was dark even during the day. Emperor Yongchang was leaning on his cheek and falling asleep, completely unaware of Fan Kinjao's arrival. The desk in front of him was filled with investigations on Linxia pills. It can be seen that he really wants to live forever and is crazy. Fan Kinjao knelt in the center of the room and said, greetings softly, daughter-in-law, I would like to greet my father. Emperor Yongchang opened his eyes when he heard the voice, but did not let Fan Kinjao get up. Fan Kinjao didn't feel guilty or impatient, he just knelt on the ground quietly. After a long while, Emperor Yongchang finally said, the prince lives in the palace, are you not worried at all? These words can be regarded as a proposition. If you speak in a hurry, the emperor will think that Fan Kinjao has an affair with the prince. But if there is no rush, the emperor asked Fan Kinjao to marry the prince just for surveillance, wouldn't it mean that the emperor's words have fallen on deaf ears now? Fan Kinjao knelt on the ground obediently but not humbly. We have exchanged several letters. When she left, she announced that the prince had woken up. So, there is no question of caring about the prince's health anymore. Since the prince is alive, she has nothing to care about. But if she said she didn't care, she had also exchanged letters with the prince. Emperor Yongchang remained calm and asked, "There was a letter exchanged. Was it you who took the initiative to write to the prince?" Fan Qinjiao said, "His Royal Highness the Crown Prince wrote to his daughter-in-law. He was asking about a businessman in the main city. My daughter-in-law sent someone to inquire and found out that the businessman said that he had eaten something that made him immortal. My daughter-in-law was originally the doctor, realized that the theory of immortality was nonsense, so he wrote a letter to His Royal Highness." Emperor Yongchang was silent while touching the ring in his hand, thinking carefully in his heart. Fan Qinjiao is a doctor from the Tao family. For someone like this who is used to seeing life and death all day long, she really does not believe in the theory of immortality. What Fan Qinjiao said is quite reasonable. The prince was afraid that Fan Qinjiao would be rejected, so he asked the queen to take the money and send someone out of the palace to make a deal in private. In this way, all the whereabouts will be correct. However, Emperor Yongchang still showed no expression on his face. "I want the prince to come back, what do you think?" Fan Qinjiao pretended to be silent for a long time before saying, "My daughter-in-law doesn't realize it's time for the prince to come back." Emperor Yongchang raised his eyebrows. "Oh." Fan Qinjiao met the emperor's scrutinizing gaze. His palms were slightly sweaty, but his face remained calm. "If you panic at this time, all your previous efforts will really be wasted. The prince is clearly in the palace, but he knows everything about the main city. He even knows that there are merchants in the main city. It seems that the prince is sending people to monitor the main city. My daughter-in-law thinks that the prince's presence in the main city should be cleaned up first. Cheng's spy, it's not too late to discuss whether the prince can return to the palace." When Emperor Yongchang heard this, he remembered the queen's words. The prince knew about the merchants in the main city, which was accidentally revealed by the queen when she wrote the letter. It seems that Fan Qinjiao did not know about the correspondence between the prince and the queen. Otherwise, how could Fan Qinjiao say these words in front of him now? The reason why Fan Qinjiao was asked to marry the prince was to let the prince contain Fan Qinjiao and Fan Qinjiao to monitor the prince. Obviously, Fan Qinjiao is developing according to his plan. But the prince's side. Emperor Yongchang felt a little unhappy when he thought about Hua Fengning's expensive betrothal gift. Unexpectedly, after Fan Qinjiao paid his military salary, he would still have so much money to give to his brother as a betrothal gift. Although this kind of thing was not a big mistake, Emperor Yongchang, who found out later, felt uncomfortable. Speaking of which, the prince was unable to monitor Fan Qinjiao in the palace, and the prince was not to blame for this. "So, I'm afraid it's time to bring the prince back. And only when the prince comes back will he have money." After the thoughts in his mind settled, Emperor Yongchang waved his hand. "You and the prince are getting married next year. It's not an option for the prince to stay in the palace all the time. After his injury has recovered, he will still come back, so you should leave first." As if he couldn't resist, Fan Qinjiao bowed and left with an expressionless expression. But after leaving the royal study room, an imperceptible smile appeared on her lips. Although the betrothal gifts were prepared for her brother, she could also give them to him quietly. But she chose the most ostentatious way, just to sound the alarm to the emperor. Since the prince was in the palace, he could not monitor her at all. If you want to continue to control everything about her, you must first let the prince come back. Of course, when he wants to accomplish something, even the smallest details can become reasons for compromise. Walking out of the courtyard of the imperial study room, Fan Qinjiao was also in a trance. This time it seems that she is targeting Bailey Fengming everywhere, but in fact she is just trying to help Bailey Fengming gain favor. Although it is a little tiring mentally, the result is good. Emperor Yongchang did not directly order the prince to return to the city, but the news that the prince had been summoned spread throughout the palace. Although no one knew what the crown princess talked about with the emperor managed to find the crown princess to meet with him. This news alone was enough to make everyone speculate. Especially the third prince's staff gathered at the third prince's residence after receiving the news. The fifth prince Bailey Lingyu heard that the princess was summoned to the palace, and knew that there must be changes in the emperor's brother's place, so he hurried to the palace and happened to meet Linyi in front of the palace gate. Linyi also didn't expect the crown princess to do things so quickly. She was sharing the good news with the fifth prince that the crown prince was about to return to the city, when she saw Fan Qingjao slowly walking towards the palace gate. Bailey Lingyu looked at the familiar figure coming slowly and tugged on Lin Yi's sleeve. "Do you think that's the emperor's sister-in-law?" "Lin Yi. I said that's okay, isn't it?" It is true that Lin Yi has been staying in the palace during this period, but as he has written letters to Xiaoxian, he knows very well how angry the crown princess is with His Highness the Crown Prince's concealment this time. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's family has a great business, so of course he is not afraid of the Crown Princess settling the scores in the future. But these little minions will only have their lives destroyed in the face of the Crown Princess's violent storm. Especially when he thought about being hungry for half a month. Even when walking in the snow, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel hairy all over his body. Bailey Lingyu looked at Lin Yi strangely. "Why are you trembling?" "Lin Yi. I don't want to either. But I just can't control it." End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 570. Chapter 570. Just waiting for something to happen to the Kong family. Bailey Lingyu also knew that the emperor's brother concealed Fan Qingjiao's secret and asked him to avoid danger and return to the palace first. But in Bailey Lingyu's concept, this should be a kind of love. If it weren't for love, who would care whether someone lives or lives? So now when she saw Fan Qingjiao, Bailey Lingyu was so friendly and walked over with a smile. Bailey Lingyu thought that even if Fan Qingjiao was angry, he would have been angry long ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been planning to get the emperor's brother back to the main city. Although Lin Yi was still a little unsure, he still knew how much effort the crown princess had put into returning His Highness to the main city, so he still followed her bravely. Fan Qingjiao walked to the palace gate and saw the fifth prince and Lin Yi walking over. One smiles very kindly, and the other smiles very guiltily. Did the emperor's sister-in-law just come out of the imperial study? When Bailey Lingyu saw Fan Qingjiao now, he not only admired but also envied him. If his future wife was half as capable as the emperor's sister-in-law, he would be able to. There is no need to turn over after lying flat for 30 years. With such a powerful wife, even if he is just a salted fish, he will be tender and delicious. Fan Qingjiao stopped and smiled lightly. "Your Highness, Deputy Young Master Lin." Lin Yi was well aware of Fan Qingjiao's step-by-step plan. He thought he was the pretending to be the one who helped the Empress go to the merchants outside the palace to buy medicinal materials. Now, seeing that Fan Qingjiao still felt guilty, he still said bravely, "This time His Royal Highness is able to return to the palace thanks to the help of the Crown Princess. I am grateful beyond words." The implication of these words is that whether you want to be beaten or punished, it is up to you. The princess can do whatever she feels comfortable with. It was he who helped the prince to hide the fact that the princess was in front of him. Even if he was the prince's man, concealment was just a concealment. Now, even if the crown princess slaps him twice, he won't even blink an eye. Fan Qingjiao looked at Lin Yi with an indifferent expression. "Young Master Lin is right. You are the person next to the prince. It is understandable that you put the prince first. Why should I blame you?" Lin Yi's eyes widened, a little unbelievable, and a little uncomfortable. Bailey Lingyu said with a smile, "There are so many of the emperor's sisters-in-law. I said that after the emperor's sister-in-law knows the truth, she will definitely understand the emperor's painstaking efforts, so how can she be angry?" Fan Qingjiao looked at the fifth prince. What the fifth prince said is that everything is for the big plan and he doesn't care about small details. I heard that the fifth prince even personally escorted the eldest prince back to the palace. Just thinking about his heroic appearance makes me sad. Don't dare to stare. Bailey Lingyu's eyes widened. He also couldn't believe it and couldn't adapt to it at all. No matter whether something is right or wrong, if they conceal it, they are accomplices, and to Fan Kinjao, they are evil people. But now it doesn't matter if Fan Kinjao doesn't shout to fight or kill, and he is still smiling and praising. It's very scary. Fan Kinjao saw that the two of them were not used to it, and the smile on his face became more cordial and harmonious. It is really enviable to have right-hand men like you by the Crown Prince's side, whether it is the loyalty of the Fifth Highness or the loyalty of His Highnesses. I greatly admire Deputy Young Master Lin's loyalty. Lin Yi. Even though I wasn't scolded, it was weird and swollen. Bailey Lingyu. How about you, sister-in-law, give us a scolding. They admitted that concealing Fan Kinjao was a bit excessive no matter what angle. Therefore, whether Fan Kinjao scolds or hits them, they can still bear it with peace of mind. But even after their necks were cleaned, they were waiting for Fan Kinjao to give them a sharp blow. In the end, just tell them this. Such a smile like the spring breeze, full of praise, the more they look at it, the more guilty they feel, and the more they listen to it, the more harsh it becomes. Fan Kinjao looked at the two grown men in front of him scratching their heads and wanting to give himself a slap in the face, his eyes full of indifference. He smiled faintly again, then turned and left. Whether it is the fifth prince or Lin Yi, there is nothing wrong with putting Bailey Fengming first. But being loyal is one thing, hiding something from her is another. She could understand how much they valued Bailey Fengming, but she couldn't let them treat her like a weakling. Since you hid it from her, you have to pay the price. Isn't it fair? So now seeing Lin Yi and the fifth prince feeling uncomfortable, Fan Kinjao is very happy. As soon as he got on the carriage, Fan Kinjao saw Ningtian coming in a hurry. Standing by the car window, Ningtian lowered her voice and said, "Miss, something happened to the Kong family." Hearing this, Fan Kinjao showed no expression, go directly to Kong's house. She has been planning every step of the way so far just to cause trouble to the Kong family. What is expected? What is the surprise? Su Shaoxi has stolen so much money from the Kong family. The Kong family cannot absorb this loss on their own. Coupled with the fact that my eldest sister-in-law is causing trouble, this whole will definitely be blamed on the Hua family. What Fan Kinjao wants is to force the Kong family to speak loudly. In this way, my brother can be completely cruel. Sure enough, when Fan Kinjao arrived at the Kong family was bustling with activity. Due to the emperor's summons today, many guests who came later came to the Kong family along with the procession to welcome the bride. There were many ministers and family members of the dynasty among them. I originally thought that it would be just a formality, but who would have thought that the kiss had not been picked up for 2 hours. At this time, these ministers and their family members, who had been pampered and had no troubles, suffered a lot. Standing in the early winter air, shivering, I wanted to walk but couldn't. There were too many guests standing in the front yard, and Fan Kinjao's arrival did not attract much attention. As I followed Ningtian to the backyard, there were many guests around talking about what had just happened. It turns out that the Kong family's careful thoughts were already quite obvious from the moment the wedding team arrived at the door of the Kong family. When everyone knocked on the door, the Kong family warned that they would not open the door without 10,000 taels of silver. This number shocked the guests present. Although it is true that the groom bangs on the door with money when getting married, it is just to ask for good luck, and it is usually enough to throw some broken silver to the concierge. But the Kong family only has a mouthful of 10,000 taels, so how can they not be scary? What's the matter? The door of your Kong family is lined with gold. Hua Fengning came to pick up the bride, so it was impossible for him to bring so much money with him. Fortunately, Wu Qiuzao, who was also among the guests today, saw this and quickly sent someone back to his house to fetch 10,000 taels of silver. Hua Fengning couldn't tell how he felt when he got a lot of money from Wu Qiuzao's hands. Wu Qiuzao said nonchalantly, "Even if you owe me first, you can pay me back when the time comes." Hua Fengning knew that since Wu Qiuzao wanted to take the money, he had no intention of paying it back. He just wanted to make him feel better. Looking at the closed door of the Kong family in front of him, it became even more dazzling. Marriage is a major event and must not be trivial. Hua Fengning almost gritted his teeth and asked people to send the money in. Although all the guests felt that the Kong family was going too far, they all breathed a sigh of relief when the door opened. Who knows, today's nightmare has just begun. End of this chapter.